Hey everyone, here we are for Kristin.
Yeah.
You need to turn down the sound or something because you keep cutting in there. No Bill this week, so it's a very bogus Bill and Ammon's hangout. But I do have two gents I've been wanting to meet for quite a while now. I have, in reverse order of them turning up, Jason. Jason, well.
How are you? You alright, guys?
Doing very good. And Hot GA, who doesn't look like a dog at all.
Well, I might.
Maybe you should have got the little ears or something. Just so I can recognise you. Well, we have a time-honoured tradition of kicking this off, which is simply to ask what's been going on in people's lives this week, since last Tuesday. So, Kristin, since Bill isn't here, you go first.
All right. Well, yesterday I had the privilege of going on a show with Virginia Parsons, and that was a lot of fun. Really neat lady, like really talented. And then I was on with Mark Trapagan and Eli Fennell and Gina Fidel, and of course Dennis Deuce, and we got to know a little bit more about Mark and Eli.
Yes, yes, and why, and why, and why.
And why.
It does really work sometimes for sort of drilling down. I know a few people were saying, you know, they hadn't known quite a lot about Eli.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what did you learn about him that you hadn't suspected?
Well, I didn't realize that he had such a strong Irish background. But yeah, I've been following Eli for a while now, so I wasn't too shocked by many things. I tend to kind of get in there. If I'm going to follow you, I'm going to learn everything I can.
Is he as super intelligent in person as he is in his comments on Google Plus? Because that guy, some of the stuff he comes out with is just mind blowing. He's up there. He's up there with one of the top. He really is.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful pieces of prose that I've ever read in my whole life was written by him.
Wow. What was that called?
I'm trying to think of what the title was, but it was talking about like the internet age, basically.
Okay.
It's just like the way that he wrote it was just so eloquent.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna find that link before Friday.
I'm going to quickly give Zara our best wishes. She's calling me after, so.
Oh wow.
Take care, Zara, and yeah, sit this one out. Close your eyes, listen in, and we'll be thinking of you.
Feel better.
I've had a day pretty much like that today. I've been GP first, pain management second, and then to the chest clinic for some scans later this afternoon. So I've had a very medical day. I'm chilled out now, ready for the evening, and unfortunately not partaking in a beer for St Patrick's Day. But Ammon is doing those honours for me. Thank you very much, sir. Bless you and all who sail in you.
Indeed.
I don't even have anything. I don't have anything to cheers you with except for water.
It's St Patrick's Day. Talk about unprepared.
I know. Hey, I've got my orange on. I'm good.
Okay. Should be green, really. But
I have green too, but my Irish ancestry are the Protestants, so we always have to wear orange.
Okay, that's the Catholics annoyed.
Yeah. You can wait till July the 12th, Kristin. You wait till July the 12th for the orange marches, and then I'll celebrate today. Well, there's going to be some fisticuffs here, Ammon. You better get your time out. Here we go.
So, gentlemen, here for the very first time that I've seen him on camera, Hart GA. What have you been up to in the past week?
Learning Powtoons.
Oh, cool.
The video marketing awesomeness, they call it. It's something new for me. Animation.
Animation is really, really powerful stuff. I must admit, I tend to go that little bit further and say, if you're going to master one, really get into Blender.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be a valuable skill no matter what. People who can master Blender, you know, it's a job in its own right, but it also gives you the ability to do any kind of animation you really want to, from very simple to really complicated.
Well, this one's...
Sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, this one's rather uncomplicated, but the more time you spend with it, the better off the product is in the end.
Yeah, it's. I've seen some good stuff done with it. I've seen some bad stuff done with it, but then you can say that of pretty much anything that users are allowed to get their hands on, including G+. Yeah. So, what kind of stuff is it that you're marketing with Powtoons?
I'm not actually. I'm just doing it for fun.
Cool.
On there.
Why not? I think there is always that extra level of storytelling that comes across well when you've got, you know, an interesting visual to keep people going.
Mm-hmm.
I think increasingly we've become we've become more and more expectant of good visuals to go with stuff, which, you know, to an extent I actually rebel against. I post hardly any pictures. You know, look, you're a kid, you start off with books with pictures, and you go on to words. I'm the words level. You won't get a lot of pictures in my post, but, you know, you'll get some thought.
Do you think your engagement suffers because of that, Ammon, or are you happy with the engagement that you've got just from... Because it's a very contentious issue. The stream can be overwhelmed with images at times, and you can't make the content out for just huge, especially on Google Plus, where, you know, I've got it's a 21-inch sort of screen here in front of me, and if somebody posts a big picture like the full width, that's all you can see. It's just a big. There's no content there at all, and there's a dividing line for me where, okay, picture's good to catch your eye, but sometimes it can obscure the purpose of why you're posting the content in the first place, and there's just a little strip at the side where there's a comment thread going on, and that gets lost. And to me, the engagement comes from the conversation afterwards, not the picture itself.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I get less views because I don't use images, but I find I get more engagement per post on average than a lot of other people, and particularly deeper engagement. You know, they're used to having actual conversations with me, not just, you know, posting a picture, and I think that is partly intentional from that.
And you've sort of crafted it so it works that way, I suppose. You really want that engagement at a conversational level rather than a share here and a share there, and that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, for my personal use, that's absolutely what I'm going for. For clients, I will often use the images because there you want the mass appeal, you want lots of people taking it up. You know, it's not necessarily people that are really involved in the conversation, but for me personally, used in social media, it's all about the conversation. It's just like us sitting here today. You know, this is what social media is for me.
Absolutely. I think I could segue into that later with sort of where social signals sort of are with, you know, your semantic presence across the web, and how big a factor the social signals are becoming there. Because that is, it sort of got bypassed to a certain extent with the last couple of releases of papers where we got Google and Bing trying to extract data from our written content, but the social signals, that's still, you know, it's still there. It still needs to be dealt with in public because a lot of people are unsure and they're backing away from it. So I think I'd really like to have a chat about that as we get later into the show.
Sounds like a perfect topic for us. Let me quickly say hello to John, because John's just jumped in. I know you had to miss us live last week. You know, the wife wouldn't let you.
I know. I know. Well, she kept me busy all morning long. Fortunately, you didn't start at 12. You started at 1, so that gave me my time anyway. So that gave me a little bit of a margin of error. So that's why it worked out.
Cool. I must admit, you know, it's one of those things. There are times when, you know, the gap between hangouts you really want to catch, or even the hangouts you're going to be in and involved in, is very small. I've pushed it to the limit a couple of times myself.
Yeah, I bet you have. Well, last week we had a regular nightmare going on. I mean, about everything you could possibly imagine went wrong. But we managed to pull it off, pretty much. Fortunately, we had Ronnie Benser there, so he kept us cool and kept trucking while we kept trying to keep the tires on the car and keep it rolling forward.
Yeah. But you've got to wonder, you know, yeah, did Ronnie there help you sort the issues? But the thing is, would you have had the issues if Ronnie hadn't been there? Where's this Google just throwing conference? Come on, let's see how good you are, Ronnie. Come on.
That'll deserve a comment.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems you run into is if you run a Hangout from a page, apparently that's not as smooth of a thing for Google still. It's still got little quirkies. And when we started off going and setting up the green room, it kept crashing, literally. Google just kept crashing. So then we tried another browser, and that crashed. And then we did this. Finally got a hold of Ronnie, and he said, well, instead of logging in as your page login, log in as a manager. And then that worked. So lesson to be learned. Don't log in as your logged in page. Log in as a manager of your page. So anyway, those little details. Now, previously we always logged in as the owner of the page, you know, the page login. And that always worked before, but suddenly it's not working. So,
well, it is working, because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm on right now. Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout.
Yeah. But it didn't work last week.
Sometimes
anyway.
It can be a pain. It really can. But I swear they make up these extra bugs for us.
So
yeah.
Where is? Oh, sorry, lads. Where is our other house this week then? He's speaking. Is he this week, Bill?
Yeah.
Is that why he can't be here?
That's it. Is it yet another conference?
Yeah.
So
they've got him. They've got him this week. That'll do.
Hopefully he is exploiting the fact that he's out somewhere with a bar on St. Patrick's Day. Not to do so would be wrong.
I'm going to get that bottle of absinthe soon. I really, you keep pushing me, Ammon. You keep pushing me. I'm going to get that bottle of absinthe.
Well, it is green. You know,
it is green. It is glowy green. So yeah, I think it'll suit the decor today. Once with Kristin's, obviously. Once with Kristin's, but you know, come July the 12th, we'll have an orange liqueur in honour of Kristin. Definitely. Yeah.
So is Bill out surfing or something, or what is he doing?
Oh, it's another search social media conference thing that he's speaking at. So.
It's a meet-up, isn't it?
Good.
It's some sort of meet-up they're having down. Yeah. I think it was in the Blue Oyster Bar from Police Academy 3, but I don't want to spread any rumours while Phil's not here to actually defend himself. that police uniform there, Eric Engad, he's lent it to Bill anyway, so there you go.
Yeah, well, Eric's, of course, been over here, and it turns out, yes, he isn't one of those Americans that comes over and has to have the automatic car. He's driving stick, even though it's with the other hand.
Oh, right, fair enough. Where is it? Where's Eric knocking about then?
Well, he was over here in London, but he made the trip to Stonehenge because, you know, after all, this connection is a good thing.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. You can't take Stonehenge to America, can you? Really, you've got to. If you want that shot, you've got to come here and get it done on Salisbury Plain, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, how's your week been, Jason? Sorry, huh?
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead.
Jason, what's been up with you this week? How's the last week been?
The last week has been it's getting. I've been really looking now because a lot of what sort of we've been doing has been sort of really aligning semantic properties on the web. Make sure your social, your video channel, it's all saying the same as your website. So Google's got this, one vision of what you do. So it's confident about you and your web presence to rank it. But what I've specifically never got detailed in is where content fits in the sales funnel. So you're sort of tweaking now as we look into outreach on guest posts for some of our clients. They've been hesitant because of what happened sort of 18 months ago with, guest post is dead, Matt Cutter's popped the balloon, blah, blah, blah. They've been reticent to do it. But they've finally come around to our way of thinking. So, no, it's a brilliant branding opportunity still. If you're not doing it for SEO purposes, if you're doing it as a means to connect with an audience, as a way to bring visitors to your site, it's absolutely fine. But from what I can read, or what I have read, is the psychology is a bit different. If somebody's reading a post that you've written on somebody else's website, it's a bit different from posting a post on your own website. If they're interested on somebody else's property, they're sort of further down the sales funnel. They've got an extra bit of interest that's made them sort of read your content. So that's where I've really been trying to get an angle on now, is where the different types of content can be molded to fit at different stages of the sales funnel, and where specifically you don't want to overdo your own sales pages on your own website, because Google's really looking for information. It's not looking for sales pages in the search engine results. It wants information. It wants you to answer questions. And the line between advertorial and informational is very slender at times, but you still got to incorporate a call to action. So yeah, it's a fine line, and I'm looking at splitting content and dividing the two, and that's what I'll be looking at this last sort of week or so. It's very interesting, the psychology behind it all, and what makes people a passive sort of viewer, or somebody who's likely to go on to the next stage and eventually convert to a customer. There's a lot of psychology behind it all, and it's been really interesting following up on that this week. Yeah.
There's been a couple of interesting articles. I'm trying to remember where I read it, but there was a good one the other day about tracking different kinds of content by using tagging and manager, because there's some content that is pre-funnel, there's some that's head of the funnel, and there's some, of course, that's right down the bottom.
Yeah.
You've got all kinds of different calls to action, even within content. One is, you've got an article on somebody else's site, your call to action is almost in your bio. It's inviting people to come and check you out, to learn more about you, to see other articles, or to come and see some presentation. That's often a really good one when you're doing this to get a result. Is you're blogging on somebody else's site, you've got your guest post out there, have something like a slide share presentation or some resource that brings them over, that's the bridge. They've gone from their property to something that's your property elsewhere, and can now bring them through to the website.
Absolutely.
Just having that bridge is really useful.
And I think there's another important concept there as well that we sort of talked about yesterday, and that is that third party, that centre with Google sort of active doorway. We say doorway pages now, guys. Well, we're going to take big action, and that really sort of adds to the mix of what we've been doing, because a lot of those middle pages, they are standalone landing pages, and they are there just to drive a customer to one of your properties, or a calculator that you got for a mortgage, or whatever. They are there as a springboard. And so where, as a standalone page now, is that a doorway page as a landing page, or where's the dividing line fit there between the landing page and a doorway page? What do you make? What's the difference between the two?
Well, this is the point. If you've got near duplicate content anywhere on your site that previously you got away with because okay, I've completely reworded it and this is for a particular use, that's what's now being targeted. This is, if you've got one of those sites that's got your service in Dallas, your service in Austin, your service in wherever, you've got all of those boilerplate pages.
Yeah.
Even if you've got it past the algorithm previously, this is where they are going to be hit, and hit hard. Yeah. This is also where you've got, maybe you've got, I don't know, some Kinzu knives or something, and you've got, Kinzu knives for professional chefs, Kinzu knives for home cooks, Kinzu knives for, you've done those kind of things to get specific phrases in. Again, that's being hit.
Yeah.
You've got your T-shirt in blue, your T-shirt in orange, your T-shirt in white, your T-shirt in green as separate pages. That's being hit. And of course, these used to be things that you used to do specifically because Google was terrible at handling it otherwise.
Yeah, and that is the difference. They're getting smarter at handling. It's not just about duplicate content now. As they're sort of using lemmatization to break down synonyms, you can't just rewrite something and think because it's got past Copyscape it's going to get past Google, because they know what a spun article is compared to the original article. The meaning, the concept, if that's a match, that's a match, and they possibly will treat that as duplicate content too, even if the wording is completely different, but the sentiment, the concept, if everything else is the same, it's a duplicate page. And that's the difference. Yeah,
the one that Bill put out the other day, he did a post on this and mentioned one of the old patents. Now, the old patent was so old, it was talking about pages that had been around in the 90s, the redirecting doorway pages, the ones with the jumps and instant refreshes and, the ones where it was completely different to what you'd expected on seeing the page. So it wasn't that, but where I think this is that this is another instance of how Hummingbird, the move towards semantics and synonyms, and even a certain amount of sentiment analysis are all coming in. So if you've got a page that is about the same thing and saying the same thing as other pages just in different words, that's going to start being a problem. You mustn't be creating lots of pages that repeat yourself. I wouldn't think that 2-3 pages are going to be a huge problem. I think this is mainly geared at people who they do a specific landing page for this campaign and another one for this campaign, and all they're doing is serving as a quick introduction to people that have come through an email campaign, through this, through that, whatever. If they aren't indexing those are going to be in a world of hurt.
Absolutely.
When they've got 20, 30 plus of these pages, and let's face it, some of these towns and city searches, wow, I mean there are thousands of those pages in places.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where you need to be savvy and sort of. But that's why it's important that Google needs to know not just about you as the author, but about your business. And that you are in different locations without you having to serve 30 pages to say you're in Edinburgh, London, Manchester. You've got to have somewhere a reference article of where your locations are. So rather than have to have 30 pages, it can look at your database of where you are, all structured up real nice, and then it can, if there is a local search, that's when it can drag you into local search. You don't have to have the keyword optimized. Running shoes, Nike, black, Manchester. You don't need that anymore. You just need, we sell Nikes, and then Google will pick up that you're in Manchester. And if somebody's searching on Manchester, your site's optimized well enough and it suits the intention, you'll figure. Because I think what's going to set websites apart initially is the depth of knowledge that you need to understand semantics now, that only a few people really clued into it. And I think if you've got somebody who really gets semantics and understands that the knowledge graph is there for you to build on, and links are sort of counting less and less and less. It's what Google knows about you that's more important than anything at the moment. That's what's going to bring your site to the fore. And at the minute, I mean, I'll still freelance and I'll get access to digital sites every day. And the amount of people who are still buying link wheels, who are still selling generic articles for $5 a time, it's, you know, it's a waste of money. You can see people just throwing the money away on these, and to me, that is what's bringing SEO into a bad world that it needs. People who don't know what they're doing, who are giving SEO the bad name. And
anybody who is buying content from a content agency, mass content supplier, this is the problem. It's not that you're buying content, it's who you're buying it from. You are buying it from somebody who has turned this into a process. Of course they are going to be spinning minimal viable articles. Of course they're going to be writing once and then rewriting it for 50 other clients, because that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
If you want to go this route, you need a copywriter. Now, it doesn't have to be your own. You can pay somebody by the hour, but anything less than that, once you go into agencies, you go into problems. There's no two ways about it, because that's the nature of the product you're buying.
Yeah,
it's got to be mass market.
And
what about this scenario? Oh.
Go on, John, sorry.
Oh, sorry. What about this scenario? I've seen an old client do this. That built their website originally, and then well, it's a long story, but what about these kind of like, for lawyers, there's these agencies where they set up your website, they provide all your content for you. In other words, they pull in content and they fill up your website with all their content, and I mean, to me that seems like they're killing themselves, but am I missing something there?
Again, it will depend how well. There are companies that do that, who do it diligently, who spend a lot of time on it, research that company, ask for materials. If you are getting this from somebody who isn't doing this, if you're in a position to buy this kind of thing, or if you've recently bought it, check other clients. Even if you have to ask the company for a list of other clients, check some, see how different you are. And you need to be radically different. If your copy is the same as theirs, get it changed this week. Get a copywriter in, because you do not want to be disappearing and then spending 6 months to get back. To save yourself from getting a penalty that is going to take time to clear, do it now. Stitch in time saves nine.
Yeah. My impression from the person I talked to, I've never talked to them directly since they went off and did their own thing, but the person I talked to, I got the impression that they were paying like, let's just say, pick a number, $200 a month for this service, and they weren't paying for copywriting, they weren't paying for anything extra. It was just like this canned operation, which makes me think, just off the top of my head, that they were getting all these articles that they collected and then they just flooded them in, which meant they were looking at duplicate content across the different clients within that service. So they're probably going to get killed on that one, right? In that case, does that sound like they're in trouble?
I was going to say, I've seen the same thing for dentists, where the are made up for them. But I think, from what I've recognized, is that the age of the company, how long the company's been in business, will depend on how hard it's going to get hit. On their new company, and they bring that in, the rankings are lower. But if it's an existing company that's already been considered in a professional market, they really don't get hit that hard.
It can vary. I've seen some clients, of course, get hit hard I've been called in by companies that you would never expect to get a penalty because they've got a penalty. You know, I'm one of those that's on people's emergency dial, so I do get to see some of those. And yeah, it can hit anybody. It really can. I've seen the biggest consumer sites get hit for mistakes made in the past. I saw Witch, you know, the Witch magazine, Witch online, get hit badly because they had some, back in the day, they had some JavaScript redirect pages. JavaScript redirect, not even decent redirect.
Yeah. Not proper, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. And of course, they suffered an issue which a lot of online publishers did where, you know, they want to sell the content, so they want it behind a paywall, but they want Google to be able to index it and rank it, but then the people not be able to. So, you know, that was why they were using redirects and all kinds of things. But no, you know, if this isn't out there, Google is a non-paying customer, and you need to understand this. Google did create a way for you to get there where you can, you know, have one page through the paywall. You know, they get to see one piece of content first, and then it hits them with the paywall, which was done for, was it Times? Oh, I can't remember who it was now. It was one of the big American papers that needed that. And, you know, that system is there. You give away one piece to sell your thing, or you don't. But don't try and have it both ways. And that was the issue. You know, you can't be showing people, you can't be expecting Google to rank all this great content and then send people to content they can't get. You know, Google doesn't. If you want the paid search results, it's called AdWords.
Yeah.
There, you can promise people all the content you like, and you pay per click.
Exactly.
What Google indexes has to be available to everybody to see. You know, it is.
Absolutely. I think that's the problem that people have had with social signals. Is getting their head around now is how much Facebook, Twitter, we obviously know now is becoming more indexable by Google. But we're seeing Facebook sort of notes heading up the knowledge box now in search, Facebook notes, and it's gone completely from Google really backing off from Facebook and saying, well, we're not going to rank with confidence anything off Facebook because we can't index anything. This year, since this 2.5 months that we're into 2015, it's flipped. Social's just gone mad. It's everywhere. Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook.
Well, that's partly that Facebook took down its no index stuff because at one time, like several other social networks, they had blocked the search engines.
Yeah.
It's still a thing. I mean, of course, Google still has some no indexing going on at some stages, and we don't know with most of these sites. You know, most of us haven't looked at their robots text to see which search engines they may or may not be letting in, and it can vary. And
yeah, it's not constant, is it? There's no constant at all.
Exactly that, because ultimately they're all trying to build platforms. They're all trying to build major platforms. Let's pick an example that everyone knows. You know, say you're looking at Fox Communications Channel, right? TV channel. Does it worry very much about whether its listings are indexed in search? Not a huge amount, because it's a destination. People turn on the TV and they know where that channel is. And that's where a lot of these social media platforms are designed to be.
Yeah.
So what they want is people used to having Facebook as their start page or going straight to Facebook, not to worry about whether, you know, they turn up in searches for where can I find a dog to buy in Dallas. You know, that's not their big issue.
No.
So you know, having people searches, maybe the profile pages be found is useful, perhaps. Trying to reconnect with classmates, but then again, it's very difficult because a lot of people have names that are not unique. I say a lot of people because obviously mine's quite unusual. But even then, you know, there are thousands of results that come up in a search for Ammon Johns, which aren't necessarily that name, but there's, you know, Ammon Tenniel, who founded Johns County. There's, you know, lots of these things where both words are appearing on a page.
Absolutely. I think Google gave us sort of part of that equation when it gave us the structured data to put into our websites. So, you know, Eric shared a brilliant picture that when you search Eric Eng, he's got his sort of knowledge box to the side of the search engine result, and you can connect on any one of his sort of, I think, Pinterest, StumbleUpon, LinkedIn, Google Plus and Facebook. They were all there underneath him, and you could just connect from the search engine results straight with Eric, and I think that gives the choice. But now this is where I'm confused at Google's motives for giving us that information in search. Surely Google doesn't want to share information, or doesn't want us to go to Facebook from its search engine results where it possibly can't access the information that we're going to share. So there's got to be an ulterior motive for Google giving us this information, and I don't know what it is. I can't work it out. Unless they want, a lot of people on social media, they share what they're doing on social media onto their websites, and whether they're using that as a feed some way into the other social platforms through a website, that's the only thing I can think. But other than that, it doesn't make sense to have a click away from stuff that Google can't index in its search results. I don't know.
It's an important long-term strategy. There are times when, as we know, news breaks first on the social media channels. Now, as the third series of the newsroom showed us, that doesn't necessarily mean they've got the news right or that it's correct. That starts off with sort of trial by Twitter, where Twitter went nuts 3 times. This was the Boston Marathon bombing, where the wrong people were declared to be suspects, and this tweet went out to people, millions of followers. Millions of people were looking for the wrong people. Millions of people in a country where you have the right to bear arms are being told these are dangerous terrorists that have just killed an 8-year-old boy. This is not good, and Twitter does need to say, look, we are not the news, we do not have journalistic integrity, and anybody could be posting this. You know, you don't know the credentials of these people. Just because you see a tweet doesn't mean it's real.
True.
But I think Google still needs to feel that it's got its finger on the pulse and can be indexing these things. I think Google has already shown it's interested in being able to let you search hashtags across platforms. Well, the only way to do that is, you know, to be actively tracking on those platforms in real time so that you can spot those hashtag trends happening.
What sort of tools are you using for that these days, Am, for tracking across sort of multiple platforms? It's very
have to vary for clients with what they're using a lot of the time. There's things I recommend. None of them sponsor this show, so I'm not giving any of them a plug. But there's quite a few different ones. I would say have a look at Nodex. I would say definitely be looking at things like Majestic and looking at some of the Moz tools. You will probably have to mix and match. I know people who, even though they do this regularly, are using 6 tools in total to keep track.
It's a cost as well, isn't it? You know, the free elements of these, they're not strategic enough to give you the information that you need to know. You've really got to move up to the pro levels of all these, and that's got to reflect in what you're charging your clients at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You can't absorb that cost, because some of these tools, if you're monitoring sort of 1,000 keywords, that's a lot to monitor, and your price will rise accordingly for the amount of keywords that you're tracking. And in a lot of instances, you're looking at sort of $200, $300 before you get a result, and you've really got to sort of.
It's
find
one
a
of
way
those ones I like my clients to have the tools themselves. It's a bit like keyword ranking in the day. If you ran an agency, you had to have a dozen different spare IPs that you used to run the ranking checks, because if you've got a decent client roster, you were running hundreds of thousands of keyword ranking checks. And you know, it's a ludicrous level. Of course, you're spamming the engine to death with that. Of course, they're going to try and block you. So you had to distribute it over. Right? But look, if you are the client, you do this because you're only interested in this 1,000 keywords instead of the 100,000 that all of my 100 clients want to know about.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Yeah.
I think, you know, if they empower themselves, if they get the tools in-house that they are able to use most effectively, and sometimes that's looking at what their technical levels are. Can they use technical tools, or do they need something that's a little bit simpler? Is it something where, you know, I or another specialist can come in and set up the tools to work for them, and then they can just run them? You know, looking at the needs of each client is so important, but a lot of the time, even something like Nodex will do just what they want it to do. There are other tools out there that, you know, are quite effective. Some of Moz's tools are very good on this as well, of course.
There's a big learning curve with some of them as well. I think I tried Nodex at first, and I put it back for months because it was just way out of my head. It just escaped me completely what the meaning of it was, what the reason was. And then John Dietrich sort of partnered up with Lee Smallwood and started putting out these videos, and wow, what a tool. You know, it really translated the usefulness of it. And the danger is with clients is they don't want to go through that learning curve. They sort of see, well, we're paying you that money, you sort that out. And it's like you say, each client will look at it differently, but you've got to be a bit sort of tentative, because you don't want to start pushing your clients away before they're confident in the service that you're providing. So again, it is like you say about finding the comfort zone with each client. It's a good one.
It's different for me. Again, you know, my market position is a little bit different to some agencies. I'm not, you know, a newbie focused SEO. I don't do the one-size-fits-all packages that a lot of those are looking for. You know, when people come to me, they know who I am. They've seen me somewhere, because I'm not doing mass advertising for the mass market. They've already heard of me somewhere. Usually they understand, therefore, that this is something a little bit further down the path. My speciality is empowering them. I make myself redundant. That's my whole job, is to empower the company to do it. I always want to be building an SEO team within that company, and often that's the part-time efforts, the awareness of SEO throughout the whole company. You know, what could they all be doing? Are they already doing something with public relations and press? If so, this person needs to understand how to integrate SEO into what they're already doing to make what they're doing work more effectively, holistically. Same with the web department, same with anyone that's, you know, writing copy for the site, same with the salesmen that are out there, knowing to pass their questions back so that the questions are getting back into the content writing process.
Yeah, that really is sort of where SEO now it's spreading. It's not just a sort of template that you do anymore. It's in the ethos of the whole company, even extending out to the clients, because the clients that questions ask, they're the perfect sort of basis for content that you need to be putting out there, because if clients are asking that question verbally, people are looking for that answer online as well, and that's where the feedback now it runs all the way through the company. And I think some people still are hesitant about getting the staff involved in what is essentially marketing. You know, SEO is marketing, but it's across the profile. And a lot of business owners will think, well, it's me, you know, it's my company, it should be me out there, and they can't grasp that it's salespeople, it's your people who sort of the gatekeepers on the phone. It's everybody. It's everybody involved in the company, because it's not so much about how you can affect positively what people do, but you've also got to warn against what people can do that will negatively affect their SEO as well. If a lot of people are posting on forums that they're involved in, posting links on forums back to their web pages that perhaps aren't really relevant to what your company does, but they're still posting links because, hey, my boss says, you know, you need to look at this. It's going to hurt. You're going to end a world of hurt. And I think so. It's not just about the positive things, but it's the negative things as well that you need to make everybody aware of.
Mm-hmm. John, I know you deal with a lot more of the small businesses and local businesses, and some of these, you know, this is their first real experience of tackling the online world, isn't it? So what's your take on this one? When you unmute. There we go.
Well, when the little blue box comes up to tell you that you need to unmute yourself, guess what? It doesn't let you unmute yourself. So you have to wait for the little blue box to go away, and then you get to unmute yourself. Anyway, yeah, one of the things that I run into so much with the little, I get a lot of, you know, solopreneurs and, you know, mom and pop type people is that you know, the big phrase, I don't have time. I was at a Oceanside kind of a network, social media network presentation that Oceanside was doing, and they invited me to come in and talk for a little bit about Google Plus and everything. And one of the people raised their hand and said, well, you know, why should I bother with all of that? You know, I mean, there's just so much time there, and I only have so much time, and he just went on and on about that, and all I could say to him is, I said, you have to decide what's important for you, and if you want to be seen as valuable, you want to have trust and authority out there in the web, then you are going to have to put that time in, and it's not going to happen accidentally. It's not going to happen just because you exist. You have to present yourself. And I said, you took the time to come to this meeting. How long did that take you? It took you an hour and a half of your time. Well, you did that so that somebody could see you. Well, you have to do the same thing online. You have to step up and be seen. And so you have to decide where you want to be seen and where your audience is, and that's a whole process that you have to go through, just like you decided to come here to this meeting. You made a decision, and that was a strategic decision to come here, and you had a purpose to come here. So you have to think the same process on the internet. It's the same kind of mental process, and you have to decide if you're going to put that time in and why you're putting it in, but it's not going to happen by accident. You're not going to say, I wish I could go to that meeting, and then suddenly everybody has my business card. You know, it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So it is very frustrating because they are getting pulled many different ways, and I think the nice thing, the thing that I really like today as opposed to, let's say, 5 years ago, is that I feel there is more of a path for them. I feel like I can offer them something that makes sense to their everyday operation, which is really important, and gets them something at every step of the way. I go back to the thing we did with Mark Trapagan with that, you know, the horse before the cart kind of thing. That concept is what I really try to promote with them, is taking those baby steps and make each step meaningful. But make sure they're going somewhere too. That adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you join us, Terry.
Hey, Derry.
So,
Thanks, Dan.
one of the things that really struck me the other day, you'll like this one because conspiracy theories are great, and this one is a perfect one. What if Google haven't got a new way of detecting doorways at all, but by putting out this really interesting sounding new patent about it, they wait to see how many pages disappear, and that gives them, historically, their user set to start as a training set for machine learning. I.e., look at all the pages that disappear in the wake of this, because you know Google caches these, put all of those into your training set, and now look for the common features of them. Because we know that the hardest part of machine learning is getting the initial seed set, you know, getting people to mark up really good, these are definitely problems. Well, this would be a fantastic way of getting thousands of people to identify the pages that they should be looking at.
Wow.
I was looking at the announcement today about the doorway pages. Well, how are they going to stop it from bringing down the my business page or my business or whatever they call it these days? Because they're really, you know, location pages basically. That in this update, I think those kind of pages where people are trying to take the same product and make it look like they're servicing a multitude of areas, I think they're about to get a nice Panda lesson.
Yeah, they've certainly, that's on their agenda. This kind of goes back to that Susie chat we had, you know, quite a while back about making the thin content pages fat. And, you know, all the ways that those thin content pages turn up, which especially talked about when we're talking about different specific uses for a service or different regions for a service, all of those things can lead to, you know, yeah, I can explain this to people very simply because we understand machines didn't, so I needed thousands of pages. You know, if you haven't got pages in the 10s and 20s, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue for you. But I think once you do have more than 10 of a kind of page, you are going to be looking at potential penalties that could hurt you. Not minor ones that might just hold you back one position or two, but ones that could seriously, you know, push you off the first page or even push you out of the index for a while.
I think you're going to need verification. In other words, there's going to have to be somewhere else where they can verify that that's actually a different business in a different location, which would make sense if you know, if you're servicing a multitude of cities, like for instance all the cities in say my province of Ontario. Well, you're going to have a bunch of offices because it's basically about, you know, the province is almost about half the maybe a quarter the size of Canada. So, you know, makes sense. But, you know, I've seen lots of people with hundreds of pages, all location, pretty much the same. And this is based on, today they updated the doorway page guidelines. Basically, I got a whole site that is nothing but landing pages for PPC. They'd never pass because they're all specifically
PPC, so it shouldn't. Yeah, you should be able to no-index most of those anyway. If it's for PPC, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah,
the whole site. But I'm saying, you know, a lot of people put those pages right on their site.
Oh, I know.
Right? If they do, then they're taking a chance of getting a Panda-like thing. That's what I think. Well, it sounded a lot like it would be implemented like a dampening, like Panda.
Yeah, and I think, again, you know, 1 or 2 pages, not a huge problem. 10 or so, starting to get to be a real problem, but its real target is the ones with, you know, hundreds. And there are sites out there like it. I think where we need to look very quickly is look at things like the hotel sites, you know, the hotel chains, Hilton. Look at some of those hotel chains. Now, they've usually got a different site for each hotel, but some of them haven't. So watch those and see what happens to those, because obviously those are ones Google wants to keep in the thing, if they get hit and if they don't, what are the differentiating features between their approach and your approach, and that will probably steer you the right way. I'd also say that some of the cinema sites, which allow you to book your seats at your local cinema, wherever you happen to be, again, that's something Google isn't going to want to penalise, and therefore that's going to be kind of their edge case for looking at.
I think also, like, I was looking the other day at Westin Hotels, which is basically, I think the chain is called the Starwood. They've got their whole chain under one program, and you can see it in the parameters for the URL, right? That, I think, passes. You know why? Because each one has a physical location with a different phone number.
Yes.
I think those kind of little things, when you're trying to do local, Google's now going to verify every one of those facts. And if you're saying you're in another location, I think there's got to be address and phone number attached to that location for it to get by these algorithms now.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the ways that I expect this to go. If you've got a national booking number, that may be a problem if you're listing that with the local places. Make sure if you've got a local listing, it's got a local number. If you need to put a big call, you know, the national, put it aside so they can see it's a, you know, a cover or like a banner wide, a site-wide banner ad, that kind of thing, in approach, and that should get you through this.
The problem with all of these big chains, they all use the same 800 number for booking. So, but they have two numbers. Most of them would also be advertising the local number as well.
Exactly.
I don't think, like I've heard people say, don't put the 800 number on your website because that's going to mix them up. I don't think so.
No. As long as there's separation,
no problem from another.
Yeah. One of the things, that's the kind of area where sometimes schema can be really helpful to you for making sure that you've got this page is about this business, and under that entity you've got only its information and not the national booking number, not the national details, but that, you know, you've got a related entity, that this business is a child business of the main business, and then the main business's contacts, here's head office, here's their, and here's the booking numbers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised when I started looking at schema that there was no special item for toll-free numbers or a second phone number. I think that should be a consideration. That would make it very easy for someone to really show their intention with the phone numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps I could just use the same as, like we did with the social media. Just, yeah, that number, it's same as that number. You know,
that's the one I'd be careful of.
It's not going to, you know, you can see people fall into that trap because they think, okay, they're going to get me on this number, they're going to get me on this number, same as, but it's like Terry just said. By doing that, you're not differentiating your entire different locations around. You're just sort of grouping everybody together. Yeah. And they're going to look at that and think, well, that is what, okay, so if I say my local number, it's the same as this number, that's going to help. But, you know.
And exactly the same thing. I know you've got a company-wide Twitter account. Do not link it as your local business's Twitter account. It isn't. Put a separate box that's for the head office, some separate area on your page that says, here's the company's stuff, but not this branch's. This isn't our Twitter feed, this is our parent company's Twitter feed. Because again, you don't want several different locations all having the same Twitter account, all having the same, because that's not going to indicate that these are separate businesses. It's going to indicate that, you know, yeah, these are fronts for the same business.
I think from a human perspective as well, that would just be a nightmare to manage. You'd really get such a crossover there of people picking up on the wrong thing. That's just a good business practice to keep them separate anyway. So a lot of people they still got Tumblr accounts where they do a good job of saying, well, this is Tumblr in Manchester, this is Tumblr in Newcastle, and they do differentiate them like that. And you couldn't see manage, you know, some of these bigger corporations. You couldn't see without the use of tags, which is something that we looked at Google Communities way before, trying to follow a community with tags, because Google Plus Community is really shocking for trying to follow anything. But you know, it's about getting this mindset of not just about separating yourself because of Google. It's about the human has got to know that if they want to speak to Wolverhampton and not Newcastle, they can get to Wolverhampton direct. So it passes on to the human side as well as the search engine side. And as long as people do that, they should be fine.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are at the top of our hour, but I'm going to quickly ask everyone what they're up to for the next week. So let's do it in the order people joined us. Hart GA, what are you up to this week, coming?
Nothing really. Just catching up on a few shows that I've missed on some other people, and working on learning a little bit more about the Powtoons thing that I was talking about. But other than that, that's pretty much it.
Well, you've got some empty space for post-its behind you. You know, there's a whole empty strip there, so you've got to fit it in somehow.
Actually, there was a few more up there. At one time, I had about 96 websites, and now it's down to about 40-some.
Wow.
So,
does each one of those represent a website then, Hart?
Each one represents a site.
Wow. Fantastic.
I just started doing this about 3 years ago, and you know, you buy names and then you start doing stuff. So it's quite a learning experience.
If the whole site fits on a post-it, I think you might have thin content problems.
I do have some thin content problems.
Jason,
I spread the same thing over different pages, right? I am the problem that you guys are talking about.
Jason, what are you up to?
Okay, well, we're running a test based on it's a 3-month test, and using some of the tools that I posted about in the semantic community the other day, the NLP, the sentiment analysis, and everything to sort of really break your content down. We believe now that you can really rank competitively keywords without actually using the keyword on the page. Not in the title, not in the headings, just not anywhere on the page. And what we're going to do is we're going to, for the first 6 weeks, we're going to see what happens with content without social media. And then for the next 6 weeks, we're going to give it a real, and I mean a real push on probably about 8 different platforms. Your StumbleUpons, your Delicious, your Dgos, you know, all the ones that Google can really get the data from, extract the metadata from, and feed into what it knows. And we're going to see that the difference between the first objective is to get content to rank without including the trophy keyword, just a lot of sort of supporting long tail and different concepts surrounding the same. And then the second part of the test is to see the difference that the social media makes, one from the posting and the engagement as well. So that's a test that we're running out for the next 3 months, and we're going to get that sort of underway this week, and that's what we're looking. We're working with a couple of guys in America, and we'll make the details sort of public
Cool.
when we've got something.
One thing I'd quickly add to that, before I move on to the next person, add a third thing onto that, which is look at the kick-out time of the social media buzz. So at some time, plan to stop the social media and look at how fast it drops off. And then later on, you might want to run a separate thing on which platforms drop the fastest. Because some platforms, those pages stay in the stream for a long time, the links will count for a long time. Others, that stream is all there is, and it dips in and out very, very quickly.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, mate. Cheers.
What are you up to this week, John?
Well, we're trying valiantly to finally get our new Wrightster website launched. Every time we think we're about ready, we think of something else, or we it's one of those perpetual oh gee, we should do that kind of thing. But anyway, we are finally going to wrap that up and get it out in the next week or two. I completely redid our other branch, Sonic Web Tech. Hopefully I'll get that launched. It's not really the final version. It's more like a cleanup of a very old website. It's the very old website that just needed to be stripped down and cleaned, and a whole bunch of redirect stuff and just really cleaned up. It's one of those.
Yeah, you had to take down the glittery animated GIFs. You had to remove those from it.
Well, that's one of the problems with being in the web business for so many years. You end up with all these sort of skeletons in your closet without even realizing it. It's because they've been there so long. You just don't even look at them until somebody goes, "Oh,
yeah.
What do you got here?" So yeah, we're trying to clean up some of that.
Somewhere called hot links.
Oh. Well, I did get rid of those a few years ago. I'm not that far behind the curve. and then just taking care of clients, which always seems to get in the way. But they're important. So yeah, just taking care of clients. And I have a very old client from the early '90s that still comes back and has me redo stuff. And I wrote a web-based sales and invoicing management system for him back in the early '90s, and I'm still doing stuff for him. So I'm completely rewriting some modules for them on that, and that's all in Java using Tomcat as a backend and stuff. So we're completely rewriting some reports and stuff so they can manage their inventory. It's a nursery business. They're a major citrus grower in the southwestern United States, and so I still do a lot of work for them, which is always nice.
There you go. Well, Terry, what are you up to this week?
Well, let me see. Tomorrow, Dave and I are doing a hangout with Mr. Shotland, Mr. Blumenthal, and Darren Shaw on local. And later this week, I'll be looking at some sites and assessing the damage from the April 27th mobile update. I already have ascertained that OpenCart, which is a well-known shopping cart, is not responsive. So that would explain the 1,989 pages on this website that are not mobile compliant. No, really, this is getting to the point of absurd. I mean, it's just idiotic that most shopping carts are not going to pass this. I don't know of one. I don't even really know one that is truly responsive, let alone mobile, going to pass their stupid tests, which when you start looking at the stuff that does not pass on their tests, it's mind-blowing. For instance, a link that they say is not big enough, right? Well, it's a fucking word. What are you supposed to do? I mean, make it a sentence so that it'll work on mobile? It's just gotten to the point of, they're telling us now how to build websites. And, you know, that's when they've gone over the line for me. Like, they've never had to tell me how to build a website. They definitely don't have to tell me how to build a mobile website. Like, that's common sense. You do what you can. But when they start saying, oh, we're just going to kick you all out of the index, there's going to be no e-com in this mobile.
But it's only the mobile index. And if somebody's, you know, on a cell phone asking, where can I buy a Red Shetland pony? And you've got a page that's a shopping page for Red Shetland ponies for some weird reason. You know, they expect people to go through and be able to use it. If they can't use it on their mobile, it shouldn't be in the mobile index. It should still be in the main index, though, and that's the thing. The mobile update was only for the mobile index. However, what you should do with most of these things is understand that online shopping sucks on a mobile still. It may get better because the screens are getting bigger, they're getting sharper. It still sucks right now on a mobile. So put your shopping cart in one of the areas where, for the very small screen media, it doesn't show. It strips it out of the site. I know it's still a horrible load of extra code that isn't going to be used, so it's not as good as having a mobile-only version of the site. But, you know, as just to get rid of the errors, put the things like the carts into an area that isn't shown to smartphones at all, that instead they get a box that says download our app. Or, if you really want to be rude, come back on a laptop.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be putting any e-com into an app because the only way it'll really work.
Yeah.
I don't think people want the same stuff. You know, I think I'm going to tell the client that basically if they can find the location of your store, or they can find out that you're selling these products, right, by having pages for your products, like the manufacturers, on the regular website and not in the shopping cart, and point to the shopping cart, I think that's going to be the workaround because, like you said, I don't think the shopping experience is really that good on. People don't shop on mobile.
Exactly. All that they want to know on a mobile is your opening time, where you are located, because I know you're around here somewhere, but I can't quite find you. So, you know, a street view shot, a map, the opening times, your phone number, and have you got the item in stock? Because I'm not even going to get that close unless you can tell me, yeah, I've got 3 on the shelf right now. So those are the kind of things, yeah, they're not interested in that.
That's why I think an app will be the way to go, because most people will be doing, if they're on a mobile, looking for, like in where they would be in a shopping cart, they're probably looking for a price to compare. They're in the shop, and they're looking to see if there's somewhere cheaper, right? Yeah. So, again, but even you get, I've heard where stores are blocking that. So, some interesting stuff. You know, they keep saying we're going to get put out of business. Google just makes us that much more important. You know.
It does.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week, although I'm sure the Green Room chat will go on for a little while. But thanks a lot, everyone. See you again next week.
Cheers, mate.